Dublin is Deirdre de Burca. She's the Director of Advocacy for Justice for Children at World Vision. Thank you very much for joining us now. We just saw the numbers there, quite a devastating situation. How much of this can be related to a super El Nino year?
Well, I think organisations like World Vision, Oxfam and others are becoming very concerned about the fact that even though we have been aware that climate change is contributing to some of the difficulties that lie behind people's decisions to migrate, to move perhaps from one part of the world to another, more recently I think there's been an intensification of the kind of climate impacts that we've seen. And we have no doubt that even where Syrian refugees are concerned, that climate change is contributing to the tendency for people to find themselves willing to travel long distances to sort of create a new life for themselves in other parts of the world. So climate change is one of the factors that is, if you like, it's a driver. It's something that's contributing to the kind of mass migration and the displacement of populations that we're seeing so much of and that we're on the receiving end of, I suppose, here in Europe, particularly over the last year.
Deirdre, now one of the most vulnerable groups are children. Give us an insight to how they're affected in all this.
Well, obviously children are their welfare is very dependent on that of their families and their communities. And when you see, either conflict or climate change impacting on the lives of local communities, children are often the most vulnerable in those situations. If food supply is affected, if there's, shortages of water, and as I said, if there's conflict where, there's a risk to life for families and for civilians, very often it's children who get caught in this. And when we're thinking of children, and as far as World Vision is concerned, it makes a lot of sense when we're talking about, focusing in particular on children, because if we see a generation of children who are scarred and whose lives are disfigured by the kind of experiences that we see many of the refugees who are arriving in Europe at the moment experiencing. So exposure on their long journeys to Europe to trafficking, to sexual exploitation, to the kind of very perilous situations that many of the young refugees who are arriving on our shores are experiencing. We know that that is going to have a lifelong impact on those children. So it is very important that we focus on their welfare now.
All right. World Vision's Deirdre de Burca joining us live from Dublin. We thank you for that analysis.